You deserve this graduation, but you may be surprised to know that I honestly believe that in many ways you are more prepared than most graduates who will cross the stage the traditional way back at your home schools. In order to understand this fully, we have to put our cards on the table. If you are here, it is because traditional school, traditional methods didn't work for you. Perhaps you are experiencing some personal challenges which make going to school unbearable. Some of you have been students that as a vice principal, I may have suspended once or twice. Maybe more than once or twice. For others, there may have been significant traumas, broken relationships that no one deserves to face in their teenage, young adult years. Some may look upon your last few years with regret over decisions made and wish some of those decisions may be undone. My best advice is to simply let it go. Whatever the conflict, you have battled through it, and it is in those conflicts that have made you stronger. Our experiences, good and bad, are what shape us. They test us, often to limits we feel we can't bear, and yet we endure. It may surprise you to note that most of the adults in this room have faced our own challenges. Sometimes we look upon adults and assume their lives seem so easy, so simple. My life in high school was fairly simple. My marks were good, but certainly not great. Like many students, if I cared for the subject or a teacher like Miss Savoie, I did well, but of course the opposite was also true. I was the youngest of 6 kids. My mom was a hard-working stay-at-home mom, and my dad worked for the government. Needless to say, there was no money for vacations, lessons, or really any extras. I went to bike camp in the summer, which meant that my mother kicked me out in the morning to ride my bike, and I'd come back at about dinner time. I'm not complaining though. Although I was jealous of the kids who would go to sleepaway camps or sports camps, I really knew no difference, so it didn't bother me. Things changed though when I turned 18. My parents went on a rare vacation, just the two of them, and my mom called to tell me that my father had had a heart attack and died. The next year, my mother went through treatments for cancer, but within 2 years of my father's death, she too passed. Oh, I'm okay now, it's okay. Those were tough times, especially for a kid who at the time had no real vision of what he wanted to do. Of course I felt cheated, and I was certainly angry of my fate. Many of you have had the same why me feelings time and time again, but those experiences in the end made us stronger. They thrust me into responsibility and purpose. It is because of this that I return to you and your story and state unequivocally that your decision to persevere to graduate in the face of whatever the conflict that brought you here has taught you a keen sense of resilience that average students simply do not have. You are tougher, you are stronger, and more prepared to face the next step. Now let's be clear, none of us are islands. You didn't achieve this by yourself, nor should you have. You have mentors and people who care about you, parents, siblings, teachers, counselors, coaches, and yes, even vice principals, who have been in your corner believing in you. The fact that you're here today bears truth to their support. You've been blessed as well by your teacher, Mrs. Joan Savoie, who truly lives by a credo that once you pass through her doors, she will love you as she loves her own child. I'm not sure if you've been following the news, but Nelson Mandela looks like he is nearing the end of his life. His story too is remarkable. Like you, remarkable in achievement, but also remarkable in his resilience in overcoming adversity. The short form of the South Africa story is that land had been taken from the black farmers, followed by apartheid, a very strict set of laws segregating blacks from whites. Mr. Mandela had a problem with that. He set up resistance, and for his troubles, he spent 27 years in prison on Robben Island. You would think that would break anyone's spirit. Now that is adversity. Instead, with the world adding their voice to the struggle, he was released, apartheid was lifted, and he rose to the presidency. You would think he would have felt the need for revenge, and indeed many of his black supporters were hoping for just that. Instead, he met both sides with a thoughtful forgiveness. He chose simply to let it go. South Africa is by no means perfect today, but the efforts of this man certainly gave hope that change is possible. Now don't worry, no one is expecting you to grow up to be Nelson Mandela. What we are expecting is that you take your experiences, good and bad, the adversity you have faced, and the resilience you have developed, and take with you the love of your supporters, and to be the best version of you that you can be. Of that expectation we make no apologies, because you are simply too important for us to expect any less. We have tricked you by placing you in this classroom in this beautiful and ambitious college to put you in the heart of possibility, your possibility. You are ready, and it is okay if you are a little scared. Nelson Mandela, when asked about courage, said, "I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear." A dear colleague of mine asked me if I was prepared to say something inspirational to you today, and I thought about that for a while. What I discovered, though, is that all the inspiration is in this room. It is in you, the graduates. So instead, I will close by thanking you on behalf of all the adults in this room for inspiring us. You are ready. Now go take that next step, whatever that step may be, knowing that we are proud of you and that we believe in you. Thank you.